Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tip Drill Podcast. I'm Reese Holiday, joined as always by Xavier Pereira. Today, we're going to be discussing whether Colin Kaepernick is ready for the NFL. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoy. All right, so the first piece of NFL news that we will cover today is the Dalvin Cook holdout situation. According to ESPN's Courtney Cronin, the Vikings' initial offer was worth less than $10 million per year. It's reported that Cook wants a deal in that same range as Christian McCaffrey. And this offer was the reason for the holdout, leading a source to tell ESPN's Adam Schefter that Cook won't participate in any team-related activities until he gets a new contract. He's obviously coming off a great season, had a Pro Bowl year, with 1,135 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground and another 500 plus yards through the air. He also had many concerns with his injuries and still hasn't played a full 16-game season. So with that being said, does Dalvin Cook deserve this contract to be paid like a big-time running back?
This contract and this issue is interesting to me because it's becoming the norm for teams to, I guess, lowball elite players because Dalvin Cook is elite. He is, for me, top 5 running backs in the NFL right now. They lowball him, and then I feel like it would be wrong for him to take a $10 million contract because that's a major reason why the Vikings have so much success and one of the main reasons why Kirk Cousins looks like a good, decent quarterback there in Minnesota, because you have a running back that can take pressure off of him when he's not having as a good a day as he should, you know? So I don't know if he should be getting paid Christian McCaffrey money because Christian McCaffrey is on a whole nother level there in Carolina. I feel like if he was put in Dalvin Cook's situation in Minnesota, he'd be even better. So I'm not sure if he should make Christian McCaffrey money, but $10 million is way too low for a running back of his caliber.
I agree. I don't think Minnesota should be lowballing Dalvin Cook like this. They obviously need offensive weapons after losing Stephon Diggs, even though they did get Justin Jefferson in the draft. They definitely need Dalvin Cook on that offense. A proven running back in the NFL. Still those injury concerns, but I think he's worth that big-time running back contract, even though the running back position is sort of fading away in the NFL, and we're not seeing as many elite running backs as we used to be. But going on to more running back news, Todd Gurley passed his physical. According to Adam Schefter, he passed his physical and is expected to be fully healthy for the season. He had some concerns with his knee ever since the end of the 2018 season and that Rams Super Bowl run. And there's reports that the Falcons will limit him during the 2020 season to hopefully prevent an injury from happening. So with that being said, X, do you ever think Gurley will return to his once dominant form that we saw in the Rams?
I don't know. I feel like he has the potential to bounce back, but I don't think he's ever going to be as great as he used to be because of this fright of injury. And I feel like that weighs on him too. He doesn't want to get hurt because nobody in the NFL wants to get hurt. All of these guys are competitors. All of these guys come to play to win. So with these injury concerns, I feel like he's going to take a cut. You know, he's not going to want to take a cut. He's not going to want to take a truck. He's not going to stiff arm somebody in situations because he's afraid that his knees are going to become re-injured. And yeah, you can pass a physical. I probably could pass a physical, you know? You just have to realize that passing a physical is just the baseline. This is what every NFL player goes through. The fright for him to become back to an elite running back is a completely different scenario. Because one, he's in a worse situation, in my opinion, in Atlanta. So there's going to be more pressure for him to perform like he did when the Rams were heading towards the Super Bowl.
Yeah, obviously a fresh start coming into the Falcons, but we haven't really seen Gurley return to that superstar running back form ever since that 2018 season on the Rams. So hopefully he can get back to that level, but if not, Falcons may be in the market for a new running back, especially with him only on that one-year deal. So even more running back news in the NFL, Derrick Henry and the Titans are currently in contract talks. Early this offseason, Henry was franchise tagged just so the Titans can focus on giving Ryan Tannehill that massive contract. And according to Titans GM John Robinson, the two sides are in active contract talks. So do you think the Titans and Henry will get a deal done before the 2020 season? And will that deal be more than the highest paid running back in the league, Christian McCaffrey's?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Mike Vrabel has done such an amazing job with Derrick Henry, and I'm so happy to see that. going off of that, Derrick Henry is the reason that these Titans went to the playoffs and won 2 games. They beat the Ravens, who were favored to win, not go, win the Super Bowl. So I don't understand why we have talks of why he shouldn't be paid such a high amount of money, because he is a workhorse. That's what he is. He he is enormous. This is a monster of a man who prefers not to truck. He's so elusive that his agility just allows him to just break tackles or to get off of tackles. And he's so big to the point where if he needs to use physicality and just run somebody over, he can do that as well. That is something you want in every single running back. And he's what is he, 6'4", 6'5"? He's taller than most linebackers on the field. So this is the perfect running back. And in this system that they have in Tennessee, it's perfect for him. I feel like if you just get better blocking wide receivers, he'd be better than Christian McCaffrey. He'd be better than Saquon Barkley. He's just, this is the perfect running back in every way. He took the franchise tag. He's not holding out like we just talked before with Dalvin Cook. He took the franchise tag. He took it to the chin. And now with time in the offseason, he's going to talk about his contract, and the Titans have to realize they have a star on their hands. This is the main reason why the Titans beat the Ravens. They are favored to still be in the playoff race coming into this 2020 season. So I believe Derrick Henry should be paid.
Yeah, just a rare talent, rare combination of size, power, and speed. Not many players like him ever. Derrick Henry, definitely a special talent down in Tennessee, and they would hate to lose him, which is why I think they're in these contract talks so early in the season. And he could potentially be a higher paid running back than Christian McCaffrey, which it's up to debate. But I think even though they're both exceptional running backs, I think Derrick Henry is worthy of that contract, basically carrying that Titans team throughout the regular season and through the playoffs. So the Titans definitely don't want to lose him. Now onto some reopening news in the NFL. According to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, he reported that the virtual season will be extended through June 26th. That means no in-person minicamps will be held during the month of June. This goes along with reports saying that the NFL is discussing shortening the preseason to just 2 games. They already made a decision earlier in the offseason with the new collective bargaining agreement that would shorten the preseason in the 2021 season to 3 games. So what does this news mean what do you think this news means for the upcoming season in 2020?
A shortened preseason, like, people take the preseason way too lightly. This is the time for new coaching staff, new teams, and rookies to show what they got. And especially with this 2020 season coming up, we had reduced training camp. We barely had teams with mini camp. We have virtual online stuff. This is nothing to what last year's or the year before, or where it's in person, you're hands on. So what I feel like is going to happen is the teams who had very minimal changes on player and coaching staff, they're going to do a lot better towards the beginning of the year. I feel like teams who had major coaching changes, head coaching changes, starting rookies, they're going to have a little bit more to catch up on because they haven't had the time. They haven't had just the all-around practice is what you need, because you need reps to understand, because there's timing. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into these things in small plays, and plays that take time to develop, that's even more practice. So the chemistry between players and coaches and players with other players, I feel like if you already have that in the year before, you're going to shine a little bit in the beginning of this 2020 season. But I feel like towards the middle of the season, everyone's going to be on even playing field. But just, I guess, a unfair advantage for teams who were able to keep what they had last year.
Yeah, definitely sort of a chokehold on those teams that have new players coming in that they can't really interact with them or sort of get a feel for how that team is going to play out and how the chemistry is going to play out. So definitely going to be a struggle for teams, I think. I think teams will come out of this stronger. They'll come out of this sort of rejuvenated, I think, especially with being on lockdown so much earlier in the season, earlier in the off season. So I think a lot of those players are itching to get back out there, which is why I think we're in for an exciting 2020 NFL season if that season does in fact happen. So now moving on to sort of our highlight of this podcast. There's reports that Kaepernick could potentially return to the league. Joe Fan of NBC Sports reported that Pete Carroll got a call from an NFL head coach and GM where they stated that, quote, someone is interested, end quote, in a free agent quarterback Colin Kaepernick. And according to Colin Kaepernick's camp, the QB has been working out regularly and is ready to return to the league. So this kind of leads into our discussion for this podcast, and that's where are the best landing spots for Colin Kaepernick? Where do you think he will fit best? What kind of role will he play? Will he be starting? Will he be backing up? So sort of give us your thoughts on that, X.
The main landing spot that I would like to see Colin Kaepernick go to is in Chicago with the Bears. I feel like they're 1 to 2 player changes away to being a contender. I just feel like they have certain players, major key players, who just aren't performing well enough, who just shouldn't be on this team. They have talent. They have a talented running back, and they have some decent wide receivers. That's all you need in a quarterback. And I feel like Colin Kaepernick, with his mobility, because he was a mobile quarterback. People seem to forget that he was a mobile quarterback. He could throw. He took the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. What more do you want in a quarterback? I feel like with the Bears, he'd be a great landing spot. I feel like if Sam Darnold doesn't work out for the Jets could build a team around him because they just lost Robbie Anderson. That was their vertical threat. It's starting to look a little dark and dim for the Jets because they have Le'Veon. I don't know. They beat up that offensive line. Maybe Le'Veon plays a little bit better. Maybe Sam Darnold has a little bit more time. Maybe he's not seeing ghosts anymore. Who knows? But I feel like Colin Kaepernick could also do well with the Patriots. I know Jarrett Stidham, everyone's saying he's okay. I don't know. You back up Tom Brady for a long time. You saw Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. I don't know. People that leave New England usually don't do very well. Jimmy Garoppolo did well, don't get me wrong, but most players that leave New England don't do very well because of the system they run there. So I feel like Colin Kaepernick, with just the mind of Bill Belichick, will do astronomically better than what people assume. So those are my top 3. There are more landing spots because there are a lot of teams in the NFL that are quarterback. They need a quarterback. They're sustained by a decent quarterback, but I feel like someone like Colin Kaepernick could boost that team to be even better.
I agree. I think there's definitely some teams in need of a quarterback like Colin Kaepernick, and there's no better time for teams to sign Colin Kaepernick than right now, especially what's going on with all the protests and that the Black Lives Matter movement, with Colin Kaepernick sort of spearheading that several years ago and even continuing on today. So I think a lot of players are sort of pushing for Colin to be signed in the league, especially with him being without a job for so many years. I think your landing spots are quite spot on there. The Bears are a good spot. Patriots could be a good spot. I even think the Seahawks could potentially be a good spot, especially with that report coming from Pete Carroll. I know Pete Carroll and the Seahawks had some interest in Kaepernick just a couple of years ago when he had that workout for NFL teams, but just nothing ever came of that. So I think there's a lot of speculation as to where Colin Kaepernick could go if he's going to go anywhere. But definitely some interesting thoughts. And another free agent quarterback that we can discuss that still doesn't have a home is free agent quarterback Cam Newton. So sort of the same question with Colin. Where do you think Cam will fit best?
Now, for me, Cam Newton, there are a lot of landing spots for Cam Newton, just like there are a lot of landing spots for Colin Kaepernick. But the problem with Cam is whether you like to admit it or not, Cam is a superstar. He presents himself in a way where maybe he's not playing the best on the field, but he'll present himself forward. He's basically Marshawn Lynch if he was the attitude of Marshawn Lynch if he was a quarterback. That's how I see Cam Newton. So my favorite spot for Cam would be in Jacksonville, but Jacksonville isn't really star-studded. It's not a place where in Florida where you're like, let's go to Jacksonville. Let's have a party. No, you go to Miami, like the Dolphins. But Dolphins already drafted Tua Tagovailoa, and we'll see how that works out. So this may be a little bit of a hot take, but I feel like LA would be a great place for him to go. Not with the Chargers, but with the Rams. I feel like that'd be an interesting dynamic with Sean McVay and with a monster of a quarterback, because remember, Cam is a mobile quarterback. He used to run over linebackers like they were kids. This Cam Newton is what we want to see. Yes, he's had the attitude problems. Yes, he's had the injury problems. But you have to realize, Cam Newton at his peak took a team to the Super Bowl. Yes, there are controversial plays. That can be fixed. And with a young, offensive-minded head coach like Sean McVay, I feel like they could do something with Cam Newton. But I think Jacksonville would be a nicer spot for him, but LA would work too. And then also the Patriots. The Patriots, I just don't know. Jarrett Stidham, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Jarrett Stidham, but if it works out, great. If not, it looks like it should have signed Cam.
Lots of talk about Jarrett Stidham too down in New England. It could go either way with him. I've never seen him play an NFL game before, so Cam. Interesting thought, though, that you think that the Rams could be a potential team to pick up Cam. That's not really any teams that I've been heard thrown around the conversation to pick up Cam Newton. But interesting thought. I definitely agree. Cam Newton could be a great system for Cam Newton to go, even back up, potentially even beat Jared Goff in a starting position. Goff didn't really play that well last year, had a decent year. Rams just didn't live up to the expectations that they did in their Super Bowl run. But as well as Jacksonville and the Rams, both interesting spots that Cam Newton can land. And we'll see where that goes. We'll see where both of these situations go with Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton, whether they get signed before the 2020 NFL season or if an injury happens during the season and they get signed then. Definitely just a possibility that could happen. Different scenarios being thrown around, different teams being thrown around. No one really knows what's going to happen with these two quarterbacks, but it's interesting to talk and interesting discussions that we're having. So our last segment of the podcast is our too hot, too cold, just right segment. And that's where we take all 32 NFL teams, or we spin a wheel for each team. We've done, I think, 4 teams so far. I can't remember which ones they were. But we spin a wheel. Xavier spins that wheel. And then the team lands on a team. We decide whether it's too hot, meaning too overrated, too cold, too underrated, or they're just right, where they should be. So go ahead and spin. I'll go first again.
All right, let's see. You got the Lions.
The Lions. I haven't really been hearing much about the Lions this offseason. They've been kind of a quiet team this offseason, not really making any splashes. Obviously trading away their star cornerback in Darius Slay. So I think a lot of people have them projected going in the bottom half of the league. Sort of not doing too well. Their head coach, Matt Patricia, being on the hot seat this season. If they don't do well, I think he's gone. So I think they're just right in that category, down in the bottom half of the league, around that sort of 4-12, 6-10 record, 5-11, whatnot. I think they're just right down there.
Alrighty, I like that. I'm especially excited to see how I believe his name's Kenny Galladay. I'm excited to see how he plays this year.
Oh, he had a breakout season last year.
Yep. All right, let's see what I get. I got the Saints. Okay. I love the Saints. The Saints are one of my favorite NFC teams. Besides the Giants, of course. It's my team, but I love watching the Saints. The Saints are so dynamic in how they play. They're so controversial. It's so much fun to talk about the Saints. Wow. I don't know where to put them. I feel like they're just right in what the talks, because I love the Saints. They always perform. They're always doing well. They have so many offensive weapons, and their defense not carried, but with the captain like Cam Jordan, you can't go wrong. So I feel like the Saints are just right. I feel like they're going to make it to the playoffs. I feel like they might even go further than that. We'll have to see. But the Saints, I feel like this may be their year. They've had 4 controversial plays where they just basically were stolen. Where that game was stolen. And whether you believe it was supposed to be called or not, it is what it is. That's the NFL. So I feel like the Saints are just right. They're going to be in the top 5, 6 teams in the NFL. They're going to do really good. That's what I believe.
I agree. I think the Saints, a lot of people have the Saints being a contender, potentially going to the Super Bowl, and I agree. I think they're just right. They got stars on both sides of the ball. Like you mentioned, Cam Jordan, obviously Michael Thomas and Drew Brees, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So I think they're just right. Potentially could win the Super Bowl, could win another Super Bowl for Drew and New Orleans, but we'll just have to see about that. So I'd like to thank you for listening and watching our Tip Drill podcast. We're going to come out with more videos this week, not podcast related. And then we're going to come out with you with another episode of the podcast next week. So hope you enjoyed. We'll see you then.